the other games that we've seen so far in the build-up to this particular encounter. So all of it was leading up to something that we were hoping as cricket fans would live up to. But in what was one of the most disappointing face-offs that we've sort of witnessed, and in a sort of remake or a rematch of the Asia Cup as well, where Pakistan came in with a lot of expectations. They came in with a lot riding on them. There was a lot of talk over the prowess of the bowling unit, the much famed bowling unit, and of course that batting lineup, which we saw glimpses of in their previous encounter as well here in the World Cup against Sri Lanka. There was a lot sort of touted to make this clash another magnificent, iconic, epic one, but it proved to be rather a disappointing, largely one-sided affair. Again, what's sort of the bottom line that has emerged from this particular match is Pakistan continues to be that mercurial side that we keep referring to. You know, one day the team that turns up would probably beat any other side that would face them on the ground, and on another day they would fold so dramatically that you wonder whether this is the side that you know is going to be one of the top contenders of the tournament. So it was that sort of a matchup, a little bit of a disappointment, but there was so much of buzz around it. You know, when we were walking at the stadium, we even showed you pictures that we had taken, that my camera person had captured in the build-up to that match. So much of crowd, so many stories that we knew of people coming from all over and entering that stadium. The buzz itself was incredible. We had some performances which of course they chose not to broadcast because it was strictly for those gathered at the stadium to sort of warm up to an event that was most anticipated and most expected. As predictably so, when the Indian cricket team won the toss, they decided to go ahead to field first at Ahmedabad, because it's always good in such a high octane encounter when you don't know what to expect, or you sort of want to ease it up, you know what target you have in mind. It's always good to sort of prepare for that and work towards it. They were backing on their batting lineup, which is the reason why they went ahead with the side that they fielded in the previous match here in Delhi against Afghanistan, which had Shardul Thakur in place of Ashwin. They persisted with that combination, relying heavily on their batting to pull them through, but of course, surprise, surprise, their bowling sort of set up the win, even as Rohit Sharma sort of specified that and spoke about in that post-match press conference of how the bowling really set up that win for them. Even for Pakistan, so when Pakistan, I think if you sort of broke the match into two phases, let's look at the first phase when Pakistan batted. They were at a very comfortable situation. If I had to sort of just look at the scorecard here as I sort of speak to you, they were in a very comfortable situation at 155 for 2. You'd reckon that they were inching close to around the 300-320 mark, which would still be a decently competitive total given the sort of size of that ground and how magnificently big it is. There is that little bit of a challenge when it comes to sort of overhauling massive scores in that particular stadium. So yes, that would have been rather daunting for an Indian batting lineup nevertheless. But from 155 for 2, they sort of nosedived to 171 for 7, with that famed middle order sort of crumbling there. I think it was set up so perfectly well with the way Bumrah led the attack. Now, we sort of even built up to how this was going to be that one match where Jasprit Bumrah, local boy, playing in his very first one-day international in front of his home crowd. We spoke to him, in fact, even before this matchup at Delhi after that Afghanistan game, where he was saying he was really looking forward to the atmosphere here. He was looking forward to perform in front of his home crowd. And he sort of set this up really so well. In fact, that delivery, his first wicket, that delivery that he bowled, I think that ought to be the delivery of the match, and that ought to be one of the top sort of displays of bowling that we are going to see in a while to come. I think it was the wicket of Mohammed Rizwan, again one of the most dangerous batters in that lineup. If you saw, he was also really looking good to sort of probably have a late charge to take that Pakistan total a little closer to something of a competitive score, and to sort of dismiss him even before he reached his half-century mark, which would have probably given him that much more confidence to go on the slog side of things towards the end. But that delivery, I think, just sort of lifted the whole performance of the Indian cricket team. In fact, they really faced themselves out really well. I won't just talk about Jasprit Bumrah, though he led the charge. you have to mention someone like Mohammed Siraj. Again, he's one of those sort of bowlers we've spoken so often about, of how he's a little underrated. He comes in with a little expectations, and sort of is a bit of the background score or the background singer of the choir in some sense, but he sort of really delivered on this occasion as well. It was a big occasion. Let's not forget, there's one big talking point that you have to take away from that match, which I am not sure if a lot of spectators sitting at homes or watching on TV screens or digital screens were able to tell, is that entire crowd at the Ahmedabad stadium, more than a lakh of it, were largely a partisan crowd. It was only cheering for one team. So yes, if you were a Pakistan cricketer on the day, you would be really feeling the pressure of the entire occasion, the match, the situation, the opponents, for sure. So a bit of it really did sort of trickle in. You could sense that sort of trickling in. There was that sense of hesitation when the batters came in, even though they sort of had a steady start to the innings. I think the way they sort of crumbled when all of the pressure was building up, it is sort of like a cauldron out there at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad, where you have an opposition that is really dynamic. It's one of the strongest teams in the competition in this tournament currently, and then you have the crowd sort of getting behind them. The one thing that happened, of course, was that Babar Azam, when he was called in for the toss, he was massively booed by the crowd there. Even any show of aggressive intent from the Pakistan quarters was met either by silence or by a little booing. So it wasn't really an easy crowd to play in front of or feed off. We know how much that comes into count. You've seen all these sports persons talking about how the crowd can be such a big factor in pulling your performance up another level. And that was really something that played against Pakistan. Yes, we always say it's important for a sports person to cut off the noise, but this was just possibly a little more intimidating than they would be used to. In fact, Mickey Arthur, I'm told, we sort of had to rush out to get this live recorded, so we sort of got some notes on certain things that were mentioned in the press conference. And Mickey Arthur, one of my colleagues, of course, sending this across, that Mickey Arthur said that it didn't seem like an ICC event tonight. It felt more like a bilateral BCCI event, and I don't think I heard Dil Dil Pakistan coming out of the microphone anytime tonight, is what Mickey Arthur said. Yes, it's a bit of it's good to joke about this, but yes, things were heavily stacked against Pakistan, and I don't think they really sort of came to the show today. They didn't really come to the match or come to the party at any stage. So that was the first part of the match. Of course, the second part, you got to hand it to the way captain of the Indian cricket team, Rohit Sharma, sort of led the charge. We were all sort of watching from the sidelines there. We were at the media box sort of watching that entire proceedings, and you were sort of somewhere thinking, okay, are the Pakistan bowlers going to come in and sort of bowl in that same very dedicated manner that the Indian team did? You know, I only mentioned the Pacers, but we've got to obviously say something about Kuldeep and Jadeja as well. They sort of played a good support cast role to the Pacers at the top, which was Bumrah and Siraj. They really sort of tied things up from their end to put that added pressure on the Pakistan lineup. So you were sort of almost thinking whether the Pakistan bowling lineup would come in and sort of do the similar job of being a little more disciplined. But just the way Rohit sort of took on the Pakistan bowlers, sort of got them on the offensive. I think the little charge at the beginning was Shubman Gill, sort of consecutive boundaries there to sort of just put them in a little bit on a back foot before he was dismissed early itself. But Rohit sort of took over from there on. I mean, he was unstoppable, and sort of the class that he shows, the way he makes any chase, whether it's a daunting one or it's a smaller target, or it's about setting a target, the way he sort of scripts his batting and the way the stroke play that he sort of ensures, it was just breathtaking. I think he made batting look too easy on the day. There wasn't that much that was happening on the track for sure, and the bowlers also lacked a bit of incisiveness over there when it came to delivering. They kept bowling. They weren't sort of putting the Indian batters at too much of a trouble. The Indian batters didn't really have to second guess too much as to what was coming in next. It became a little predictable, but even in that predictability, Rohit really shone. Such effortless pull shots to six. One of the sixes was in fact went high up as 24 meters into the air. That was artistry at its best. Virat probably wasn't really looking as sharp as he normally does in any run chase. He sort of, I think Rohit sort of just went on the attack and on the impetus, so Virat sort of was left around to rotating the strike a bit. A few occasional shots from him, of course. Wasn't really looking at his very best. A bit of a run out miss up and misunderstanding too sort of probably unsettled him a bit before he also departed. Shreyas sort of took his time out there. I think the sort of acceleration that Rohit Sharma had started the innings off sort of petered when these couple of wickets unnecessarily sort of fell to sort of slow things down. That's probably, if you had to sort of nitpick and sort of say where did the Indian cricket team maybe miss a trick or two, you'd probably say that, you know, a target as paltry as this one, you would want to be rather more clinical, because the matches that are coming up now for India, barring a few in between, are going to be very, very challenging. You have a red-hot South Africa team waiting to take them on. You have a team like England that's starting to get a turnaround of sorts. You have a team like New Zealand that, despite the absence of a lot of key members, including what we're hearing now of Kane Williamson sort of having to miss out some more matches because he's fractured his thumb, you have these teams waiting in the wings to create that upset. So little things like this can sort of really upset an apple cart of sorts for the Indian cricket team, but that would just be nitpicking, because it was pretty much a flawless display by the entire Indian cricket team. You'd have to say that was what it was like today. I think there was very little challenge. We speak about the rivalry here, but it is sort of, at least in the ODI format, I wouldn't probably put my hand out on the line when it comes to a T20 format, because Pakistan, still being the sort of temperamental side that it is quite a very, very volatile, dynamic unit when it comes to the shortest format of the game. So in ODI cricket, for sure, this team certainly sort of lacking that bit of a fight, that bit of a teeth to give India any sort of a fight today. I think that was probably a little disappointing for the crowd, but the crowd nevertheless enjoyed the win. I think there were a lot of fireworks that went off right after, which you could even hear sort of reverberating outside as well, right after the Indian win. A lot of celebrations obviously ensued thereafter. In fact, we were walking outside the stadium and the crowd was still present. They were coming out in throngs. Sort of celebrations were alive. There was a lot of drums, there was a lot of music, so many people sort of still alive and walking around outside, despite this being a bit of an insipid encounter and much less like what we normally sort of witness in a match that we've sort of built to be one of the top clashes in the tournament. So yes, on that note, a lot of positives. If I had to sort of quickly take you through the schedule and see where who these two teams sort of come up against next, to sort of get an idea of where things head for them, because let's not forget, if you look at the points table now, we need to see the points table to see where the teams stand right now. Where India's on top with 3 wins in 3 matches, very healthy net run rate of 1.8. New Zealand, of course, snapping down at their heels with a slightly lesser net run rate, but they're there as well. South Africa coming in hot at number 3. Pakistan still holding their spot in the top 4, but there's a lot of turntables that's going to happen. There's a lot of things that's going to happen in the coming week, because you're going to have many matches where things will shift around. So if you look at who these two teams are playing next, India again has a relatively, what they would think would be another match that they should keep in their bag. But again, this is against Bangladesh in Pune. They're going to travel to Pune for their next encounter. Pakistan has a match on its hands, but again, it's against a team who's had a very disappointing, very, very upsetting loss against South Africa heading into this one. Australia versus Pakistan, that's happening in Bengaluru. A lot of runs as usual, as you would expect. The shortest stadium of the entire list of venues that India is hosting its cricket matches in. So that's going to be a high scoring affair. Again, it's that very, very important, crucial points that Pakistan will have to look to nail, and they're up against a team that's hungry for a win. So this promises to be a very, very interesting, must-win, exciting clash for both these sides, and especially for Pakistan if they want to get their campaign back on track. For India, the challenge would be, hey, let's not peak too early. Let's not get a lot of these good things going, because it's a long tournament. It's a month and a half. You want to keep all of it sort of going in a moderate manner, so that you've got the best served for the last, which is what the last final hurdle and the final stretch is for. So yes, an exciting week is what we promise you here at the Cup of Dreams. And of course, it starts with another one tomorrow with England taking on Afghanistan. To sort of tune into our preview as we set that up one for you. But as always, there'll be a special show that we'll bring to you tomorrow at 7 p.m. on Firstpost. It's a First Sports special episode reviewing all the things that went right and to look ahead on an exciting week, another exciting week of the Cricket World Cup. You're watching the Cup of Dreams here with Rupha Ramani. Keep following us for more, and thank you so much for tuning in here with us, and as always, keep watching.